What's up, everybody? John Eric Poli here with My MMA News, and today's guest will be fighting Mana Martinez at UFC 285. That fight is coming up this weekend now at the time this interview is airing. So, yeah, March 4th, that fight day, big pay-per-view event. Today's guest is joining me once again, Cameron Saaiman. Cameron, nice to see you again, man. Really appreciate the time, and I appreciate you making the time for this too right after you got done flying into Vegas and everything. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm back in Vegas and I'm happy to be here. It's well, by the time this comes out, it's fight week, so I'm really looking forward to making weight and to put on a great performance as well.
So let's start with this whole travel thing. This is something that I actually, when I interviewed your teammate Drekas, we discussed it, and that was the flight coming into Vegas. Because for you guys in South Africa, it's quite the travel, right? I think it's something like 14 hours. I think he told me when we were off air, or something like that. It really
Yeah.
is hectic. It could mess with the weight cut and training and everything. Just what was that whole travel procedure like? And I guess how are you feeling now, finally, that you're in Vegas and that's all over with?
Yeah, it is quite intense. So we usually try and adapt to Vegas time about 2 or 3 days before we fly out. So most of our sessions are like at 3 a.m. in the morning, South African time, to already try and adapt that body clock to that. So that's before even flying. We try and prep that. Then the flight itself is absolutely, it's quite brutal on the body. You know, we have I think the flight was 15 hours long, so 15 hours to Newark Airport in New Jersey, and yeah, on that flight, it's very hard to. We try and get open seats as well, so that we can at least sleep on the plane, but we're not always that lucky. So yeah, just for 15 hours on the way to Newark is very hard, especially if we start water loading as well for our water cuts. And yeah, it can influence your mentality as well if you land here in the States and you're quite heavy. But obviously that's just of the flight itself, you know. So you hold a lot of water back, and but the 4.5 5 hour flight again from Newark to Vegas is also, that's not that bad. And but we're now in Vegas. We've been here for a few days. We are very well adapted to the time zones as well. So I can't complain. We try and do it as professional as possible, and that's why we are in the position where we can now wake up at a reasonable time, go to do our peak sessions, and yeah, spend the rest of the day just enjoying Vegas for what it is.
And Vegas is quite the city. That is definitely for sure there. Let's back up now for a second before we get into anything more fight specific for this fight. I do want to go back to your last fight because it was your UFC debut. I'm sure that's going to be a moment you're never going to forget for the rest of your life. It's something you'll always be passing down to people the whole rest of your life. That first moment that you made that octagon walk, just what was that whole experience like of making the UFC debut, getting the win, and just everything that went into it?
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. You know, I remember just being backstage, and there's like, after the warm up, they take you to like a holding tunnel, and it just said the arena's name, obviously just against the wall. It's like plastered everywhere. And just for a second, I just turned back to my coach and I was like, man, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. Like nothing, nothing will top this. So it's still surreal, you know. A year ago, 2 years ago, I was fighting in the UFC, and yeah, it's absolutely amazing how quickly your life can change. And I'm very fortunate to have an amazing team, amazing coach, and guys that I can look up to. And yeah, now we are here in the debut. It's one of those debuts that I will not take anything back. We had a lot of adversity. There was the illegal knee that in the fights, and I think a lot of people could see after the finish as well. I was quite upset of that. Just because I didn't want there to be any question marks behind that performance. And but looking back at it, I'm super proud of the adversity we went through in that fight, and that we could overcome that and walk away not only with a win, but also a finish and a performance winning a bonus as well. So I'm very happy with that debut.
And one thing too with the debut that I don't think a lot of people realize is when you're not used to being in the UFC, it could be kind of like hectic and eye-opening because there's more than just like we already opened up, right? There's the travel getting over here. Then you have media days, you have poster signings, you have fight kits, still got to weigh in, ceremonial weigh-ins, then it's fight night. A lot goes into a UFC fight week that a lot of people don't realize. So
Yeah.
now that you already got to experience that once, you kind of feel like a little bit more relaxed doing it this time around?
100%, without a doubt. You know, it is, and I've said it, and I was open and honest. It is very overwhelming. It's not like the Contender Series, you know. So getting here, being on a big pay-per-view event, and having all these obligations that is tied with the event, which are also in itself amazing stuff to do. You know, it's fun to do it. It's just a lot to think about, and it's a lot to take in, especially I think, especially for myself, I've been a massive like proper fan of the sport for years, you know. So I've been looking up to these guys and actually being fanboys of a lot of these fighters, you know. And now I get to not only share the card with them, but also possibly be able to compete against them in the future. So it is a lot to take in. But I am again very fortunate to have an amazing team with me, and the debut was a great. You know, it's a lot about learning on the job. You know, taking everything in and then looking to progress on that. So I've already felt like the moment is not too big for me. I know how to handle it now. I know what to expect more or less, and we will be ready if there are challenges on the way. We'll be ready for that. If there's adversity on the way, we'll be ready for that as well. So I'm really looking forward to UFC 285, which is an absolute amazing card to be a part of again. And I'll be looking to have a bonus winning performance again, and really just show again that I deserve to be here.
Man, I can tell you definitely deserve to be here on the stage. I remember the Contender Series win. You opened up a lot of eyes, did it again in the debut. So looking forward to seeing this one here. Let's get into now the fight specifics now of this fight. We'll start with training camp. Obviously, the bulk of it, or just about all of it, you could say, is wrapped up now that it is fight week. Just talk about what it was like when you were back over there in South Africa and how your training camp went.
Yeah, training camp was absolutely amazing. You know, I am very fortunate to have a team of killers at Team CIT. We have guys that are now also just like going into the international stage, getting recognition from international promotions as well. And we have a yard of savages at Team CIT. So it was also quite quick after the last fight. We took off about, I think, max 12 days. Um, no, a little bit more than that. I think it was like 2 weeks. We took off and then we jumped back into training camp again. So it was quite a quick turnaround, which I like. I like staying in camp. And, you know, all my training partners are willing to help where they can. They are also super committed to building their careers as well. So everyone, you know, the 1st of January, when everyone was starting to come back to the gym, we really just like got the ball running. I was in George, which is like the south coast of South Africa, and I was training every single day. I think I skipped my birthday and Christmas. Those are the only 2 days I didn't train, but the rest of the days I kept very active and trained every single day. So it was really just keeping that momentum going and really looking to improve on a lot of notes we had from the debut. So I'm really excited to show you guys what we have in store for this next fight.
All right, let's talk about your opponent now here a little bit. Just what have you seen out of him as you've been scouting him, and what do you think he's going to bring to the table, and kind of do you see things playing out here on Fight Night?
Yeah, definitely. You know, Mana Martinez is a great opponent for myself. It's he is a little bit higher ranked than I am, and we will be looking to climb the ranks every single time we fight. So this is a great fight for myself. I think he's very good on his feet. There's a lot of question marks revolving around his wrestling and his grappling. But that being said, I enjoy a good stand-up fight. I think a lot of people got to see that in the Contender Series fight. Although I tried to do that in the debut, credit to Stephen Koslow. He has an absolute amazing ground game, and obviously he would like to fight at his strongest aspect of his game. But Mana Martinez, he looks like a very good composed stand-up fighter, and I would like to think that I'm that as well. So I would really like to have a good stand-up fight. I don't see the fight going to the judges at all. And I predict the finish within 2 rounds of Mana Martinez. And hopefully, whether that's on the feet or on the ground, I really hope it's on the feet.
And I'm going to say, so you already said once, right, that you're looking to get a bonus. You're predicting a stoppage. I think that's going to be in the cards here. You got some extra money to go back home with?
100%. I'm 7-0 as an amateur, as a professional, and I have six finishes, which 5 of those were performance bonus winning performances. So I would like to keep up with that momentum. And also, just like we are on such an impressive card, it's absolutely insane. So it's going to be a tall task, just like being one of those top performances, just seeing what stacked card we're on. But I think we can get it done.
All right, let's talk about your teammate now, Dricus Du Plessis. Big fight coming up for him here. So he's ranked number 10 in the middleweight division, fighting Derek Brunson, who's ranked number 5. I just spoke to him before I spoke to you, and he's so confident going into this one, and he feels that a win here is going to get him into the top 5 and put him right into the mix of things here. How's he looked? Tell everybody how he's looked throughout camp and just how excited you are to see him go out there and fight what's definitely his biggest fight to date.
And Trickers, it's always every single time. It's just like, can like how much better can he get? And then every single time he just shows us it's just super scary. It's absolutely scary where he is. Again, he's also having a quick turnaround, which is also just adding fuel to the fire in terms of how well he improved in this camp. So it's absolutely amazing. He has all rights in the world to be confident. He has worked his absolute butt off for this opportunity. And if there's one guy in the top 10 that deserves that shot of the top 5, it is Dricus. And I think come fight night, he will once again, prove that he deserves to be in that top 5. I also predict a finish for Dricus, and I also predict it's within 2 rounds. So I think it's going to be a decisive win. And if the matchmakers are keeping a close eye on that fight, they'll see that he deserves, if not a title shot, at least number 1 contender fight. And I don't think he really, deserves anywhere a spot between 10 and 5. I think he should take that 5 spot and fight upwards. And hopefully, with a lot of talks of UFC Africa coming soon, I really hope it comes soon, I can really see him headline that event and be fighting for a world title.
That would be awesome to see. And I've been following Dricus throughout his career. I started doing interviews with him before he was ranked. To see him get to this point is absolutely remarkable. And I'm excited to see what he does here on Fight Night. Just like yourself, been following you now for a while too. So it's great seeing you guys do your thing. And it's been great getting to know you guys here. And let's talk now, though, about more about UFC 285 here. You mentioned before, right? Super excited to be on this card, and the world is super excited to watch this fight card, and it's all centered around Jon Jones. Fans are buzzing to see what he's going to look like at heavyweight. Just want to get your thoughts on his return against Ciryl Gane, vacant title on the line. Just your thoughts on that heavyweight title main event.
Yeah, it's one of those fights that we've been talking since it was announced, on our podcast as well. We've been chatting about that fight every single week, and it's just one of those fights where I was super surprised when Jones came in as an underdog when the odds opened up. I'm not a betting guy anymore, but I like to place bets with my co-hosts, a round of golf at breakfast or whatever the case may be. So it was shocking to me seeing him be an underdog, and I just think I'm such a massive fan of that fight because you have Ciryl Gane, who is this ferocious heavyweight who is, has the footwork of a bantamweight. He has super dynamic striking, there are a lot of question marks around his wrestling as well, but I'm sure that is a game that he has all looked to improve coming up against with some might consider, and I think I consider him the pound for pound best ever in John Jones. So it's going to be a great fight. I'm backing Jones in this fight just because of obviously I've been a massive fan of him for years, and I would like to see him really run rampant in the heavyweight division. I think it will shape it, it will ruffle some feathers in that division as well. And but I don't think it's going to be an easy fight at all. I do predict the finish. I think Jones gets it done, but I think it's going to be back and forth.
And I was shocked too when he opened up as the underdog as well. I just thought with the wrestling credentials there too, and with Surreal struggling against Francis, who doesn't really come from a wrestling background, I thought for sure
Yeah.
Jones would have opened as the betting favorite, but is what it is. Anyway, another fight I want to ask you about for UFC 285 co-main event: Valentina Shevchenko. I think it's her eighth, looking to be her eighth title defense. Here, she's able to beat Alexa Grasso. Just your thoughts on that co-main event?
That's an amazing fight. Alexa Grasso really deserves that title shot. But to be honest, I really, it's hard for me to see anyone beat Shevchenko at this moment. I think Aaron Branchfield has had a great performance in the past, and I think with one or two more fights, she'll be able to get the shots at Shevchenko. But it's just, I think Shevchenko is just worlds above the rest of the division at this stage. We saw her train 2 days ago at the PI as well, and she's just looking in amazing shape. She's super dialed, super focused. So I'm a massive fan of Shevchenko. We always joke about that on the podcast as well. I always try and set up the fight because I would like my co-host to fight her, and I think he'll get his ass kicked royally because that's a fight I would like to see. But it's just I'm a massive Shevchenko fan, and I think she gets it done.
All right, so you mentioned the podcast a few times now. Just before we wrap things up today, I want you to give a shout out to the podcast. Tell everybody, if they don't know already, where they can find it at, and anything you got to plug with the podcast. I mean, take it away. Floor is yours.
Awesome, great, thank you. The MSP show, it's on wherever you listen to your podcasts, so you can go check out the MSP show. And then the audio and video format is on my YouTube as well, Cameron MSP Saaiman. You can just search the MSP show. I'm pretty sure it will pop up as well.
All right, man. Great stuff here today. Last thing before you head out now, social media so people know where to follow you at. You have any management or sponsorships you got to plug? Take it away.
Yeah, thank you again, Team CIT, the one of the best MMA gyms in the world, the best MMA gym in Africa, and the by far the best MMA gym in South Africa. We are the front runners, and I'm so fortunate because without that team, I would not be in the position I am today. So I'm very fortunate for that. Our team sponsor USN has been backing us for quite a while now, and I'm very fortunate to be able to share this event with them here as well. A proudly South African brand that has also taken the world by storm. So it's very cool. And if you want to find me, Cameron Saaiman or Cameron MSP Saaiman on everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you guys want to go check that out, I'm there.